Good morning and welcome. You're watching our special budget coverage on NDTV 24/7 as we take you through what we are calling the election budget of 2019. Perhaps it is the most important budget of all. It's not a full budget. It's being called an interim budget or a vote on account. But it is perhaps the most important of all because it comes just on the eve of the general elections. What we're looking at today is whether we're going to see a number of important political announcements in this budget through perhaps new schemes, perhaps for farmers, maybe SOPs for the middle class. We don't know. This is all speculation. We know that an election is coming up. We know that the government is under pressure as far as the economy is concerned, on farmers, the middle class which is unhappy, small businesses which are not happy. And therefore, what will be important in the budget speech today will be to see whether Finance Minister Piyush Goyal is going to pull something out of his hat to make these various groups happy. So over the next few hours, we will be analyzing what the budget expectations are, what people want, what analysts, economists and political parties believe will happen in this budget before the budget speech is actually presented at 11 o'clock this morning. Let me introduce our panelists in the studio first. This morning, we have Juhi Singh, spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. M.K. Venu, founding editor of The Wire, is here bright and early in the morning and doesn't look very happy about it. Rahul Gupta, who is the regional chairman of the Export Promotion Council in the Ministry of Commerce, is here with us in the studio. Also with us is Ashwajit Singh, the managing director of IPE Global Limited. Well, before we go across to our panelists this morning, let me go across first to my colleague Purva, who joins us from Mumbai this morning. We're trying to get a sense this morning, Purva, from various parts of the country, from people across the spectrum on what their expectations are and what they would like to see from the finance minister. And you're at the CST station in Mumbai. What are people telling you there?
Yes, good morning, Nidhi. And yes, you rightly pointed out, right now I am at that CST station where here for Mumbaikars, it is more about that railway budget and what expectations they have from the railway budget. And interestingly, Piyush Goyal is also the railway minister. So they do have a lot of expectations from the minister about the railway budget as well. Let's go across to some commuters who are regular travelers who take these local trains regularly. Sir, बताएं आप हमें कि क्या आपके एक्सपेक्टेशन है रेलवे बजट को लेके?
रेलवे बजट को लेके खुशी है, पर क्या मैडम कि हमको जो क्वालिटी चाहिए, फैसिलिटी चाहिए, नहीं मिल पाती है।
कैसी फैसिलिटी?
फैसिलिटीज में कुछ किराया कम होना चाहिए और हमको स्पीड के हिसाब से किराए के मौदम पे किराया, हम लोग का मिडिल क्लास आदमी, हम लोग को किराया कम चाहिए। जैसा किराया और बढ़ाते जाते हैं उसमें किराया बढ़ाओ ठीक है, पर किराया बढ़ाने का उद्देश्य में हमको तो उतना फैसिलिटी दो ना। टाइम पे होम गार्ड मिलता है, कुछ इमरजेंसी किसी को एक्सीडेंट हो गया तो जगह पे गाड़ी नहीं रुकती, कुछ हेल्प नहीं हो पाती।
आप बताएं आपका क्या एक्सपेक्टेशन है?
एसी लोकल होना चाहिए।
एसी लोकल
एसी कंपलसरी होना चाहिए।
एसी के लिए तो खर्चा ज़्यादा है, लेकिन सुविधा होना मांगता है और जगह पे गाड़ी 40-40 मिनट लेट रहता है। हम लोग पंचिंग कैसा करेगा? हमारा 10 दिन का पंचिंग लेट कंटिन्यू होता है हमारा, तो ऐसा नहीं चलेगा ना। उन लोगों ने भी सोचना मांगता है ना, कुछ भी करना मांगता है ना।
फास्ट ट्रेन होती है वो भी स्लो जैसी आ रही है,
स्लो जैसी चलते हैं, मेल पहला निकलता है। हम लोग सुबह शाम काम पे आते जाते, तो हम लोगों को ज्यादा करके मेल पहला निकलता है और हम लोगों को पीछे रखता है, वो उससे लेट होता है ना हम लोगों का, और सुविधा होता है ना हमारे लिए। और सेफ्टी के बारे में तो उसने सुविधा करना मांगता है, पुलिस मांगता है, लेडीज में जेंट्स में भी मांगता है आपको,
जेंट्स में भी। और ट्रेन की संख्या भी बढ़नी चाहिए मैम। अभी
ट्रेन का जो फैसिलिटी है हर 4 मिनट में, लेकिन ट्रेन यहाँ लगभग 10 से 15 मिनट लेट ही आती है। फैसिलिटी की बात करें तो एसी ट्रेन तो चालू हुई थी, लेकिन एसी ट्रेन का तो अभी तक मुंबई में उपनगर में तो पता नहीं चल पाई है। शायद वेस्टर्न लाइन में ये फैसिलिटी दी गई है, सेंट्रल लाइन में तो फैसिलिटी अभी तक नहीं दी गई है।
और 3 मिनट में गाड़ी है, लेकिन हमारे इधर गाड़ी होना मांगता है ना वैसा।
So that's what these guys here, the commuters, they want more AC trains. Like in Mumbai, it's very hot and humid. We're approaching summer, so that is what their need is. Like they're expecting more AC trains. Like if you talk about the Mumbai local, especially, it is divided as central and western. Where western railway has the AC trains, but the central railway still doesn't have any AC train. That is one demand. And they also want fares to be reduced as well, although it is still subsidized, but they still want fares to be reduced, and more in terms of safety. If we talk about the railways and accidents related to railways, last year
All right,
when
Pooja,
we
thanks
saw
very
that
much
massive
for that. Thanks very much for that from Mumbai this morning. So that's just one perspective. As I said, we're trying to get a perspective from various groups across the country. Today we'll be going across to our reporters who are talking to farmers this morning, commuters. There's one of our reporters today at a labor mandi where you have graduates who are standing there early in the morning, looking for jobs, and that's again going to be, as we've been saying repeatedly, the key issue in this general election. Shantanu Gupta, author and analyst, also joining us this morning. Let me get to our guests here in the studio first, and Venu, let me start with you. A political budget, an election budget. Now, it is an interim budget. It is not a full-fledged budget as one normally expects. But what can the government then do within the limitations that it has?
See, Nidhi, I looked at the interim budget which was presented by UPA in 2014, P. Chidambaram, and I noticed that so one of the conventions that normally governments observe is they don't make any changes to income tax, direct taxes, because direct taxes then they require ratification by Parliament. It can go on to, typically budget sessions get split into two. So it can spill over to April, May. But Chidambaram there were no changes in direct taxes, but he made a lot of changes in the indirect taxes. So he made a lot of things cheaper, consumer durables, consumer goods, even, small cars, etc.
So they have the scope to do that?
But here, it's all subsumed to GST. Now, GST is being looked at by a GST council. Now, GST has been a continuous budget, like every 3 months they have been changing, right? So if you put GST aside, I don't think there is any scope for changing tax rates. However, it could be a major political statement, as you said rightly in your introduction. They will definitely address vulnerable groups like farmers, the middle class, the jobless. There is a talk of basic minimum income. There could be some broad framework for basic minimum income. To some extent, the Congress has kind of preempted them with Rahul Gandhi talking about minimum income guarantees, different from the basic income that they had been talking about, or what Arvind Subramaniam had talked about in the economic survey last year or 2 years ago. So some of those things could come. But overall, Nidhi, if you notice, Narendra Modi from the very beginning, all his roadmaps, if you notice, in all his statements since 2014, have been about 2022. Housing for all 2022.
Yeah. Electricity.
So, so I think that 2022 kind of narrative will continue. The budget will make you see, budget would sort of make you, give you the impression that they are coming back to power. And then they would talk about all those flagship schemes which are already rolling.
So it will be like an election speech come budget.
Yeah, and they're all underfunded. By the way, Ayushman highly underfunded, housing highly underfunded, Ujjwala highly underfunded. So let us see what they say about funding of these schemes. They're all big schemes, but funding very poor. So far, nobody is convinced about the
Okay, that will be interesting to watch out for. Rahul Gupta, do you agree with that assessment that Venu is making, that this is a budget that might see something for everyone, even though it is an interim budget? Or do you believe that there will be limitations to what the government can do today? What do you think will happen?
Well, what Mr. Minu Gopal just said, that it's interim budgets going on as GST Council, that's a fact. But at the same time, it's not delivering anything. GST, since last 2 years, has got exporters and businessmen stuck their funds with the government. Any export made in present date, you at least get 10% stuck with the government, which you get 2 months, 3 months down the line. And that more becomes like a benefit as if being passed. My money is stuck with the government because of GST, and me getting it back and reading in the newspaper as if it's some kind of subsidy given to me. It's that kind of position. So GST needs some major changes which budget should have. And as he has rightly pointed out, direct tax changes cannot come, but the government, if you see from the political point of view, it's only direct tax changes which can really touch the people at large. Indirect taxes only makes you feel that you might get goods cheaper, but the direct what your pocket gets affected is direct taxes only. So I believe government will touch indirect taxes again. Yes, I fully appreciate that there have been interim budgets in the form of GST Council meetings, but they don't have substantial deliveries. They'll have deliveries like 1% or 2% of the expected agenda. So probably budget should match them. Export
so you'd
credit
say that
is,
for small and medium businesses,
Yes.
the expectations on GST today
is very high.
some overhauling.
Yes, yes.
On that, on the way that's working. Mr. Ashwajit Singh, your sort of, if you had to predict what could happen in this political election budget, what
I
could it
think
be?
it's going to be a very populist budget. It's going to be very pro-poor. I'd really say that I think the areas they need to concentrate, and they will make announcements, definitely is issues around farmers, agriculture, issues around jobs and employment, and also mainstreaming women and their condition in India. Now, we've had this controversial sort of report on jobs yesterday, and it doesn't show a very rosy picture. Of course, the figures are still to be confirmed. But I think that's an area they really need to work on. Not only do they need to look at how do they really create jobs, and they will probably, they've already appreciated that NREGA, the scheme that's been working well. They've already given additional allocation to NREGA in the current year. So I see NREGA being continued, and maybe more funds being allocated to NREGA as well as the rural ministry. I also see maybe a more impetus on the Mudra scheme itself, because when you're talking about jobs, you need to also create entrepreneurs. And Mudra, of course, we've had 2.5 lakh crores sort of sanction in Mudra, but the average ticket size, unfortunately, has only been about 50,000 rupees per person. So that's not enough for really people to start being an entrepreneur.
A sustainable business.
So I think it's not a sustainable business. Of course, I also
So
feel that
in a way, what you're saying is that this whole debate on jobs and the shadow that kind of looms over them on the issue of employment, in a sense, will, you think, drive what this budget speech
it would definitely play an important role in the budget speech. And you see, when we talk about employment, we're still not clear on the definition of employment. There's a lot of underemployment, disguised employment. Even people who we are considering as employed are actually not even getting the minimum wages, people in the informal sector. So there's a lot to be done in this space. Of course, it has to be in line with the overall sort of reforms and the investment scenario at a macro level as well. But I think that's something they need to look at. Agriculture, agriculture contributes 17% of our GDP, but nearly half our population is really in the agriculture sector. So a lot needs to be done there.
So let's talk a little bit more about sort of how jobs are going to play a big role in this budget. And Juhi Singh, in that sense, then what Venu said and what everyone's been speculating on is that they may announce a basic minimum income, which in a sense Rahul Gandhi preempted by announcing the Congress's version of. Is that something that you see, politically, that's something that could resonate very well among voters? I mean, it's very populist, but voters, may say, okay, this is good.
See, Nidhi, whatever they announce, whether it's populist or poor, people have been looking at this government for about 5 years now. This is their last budget, and there will be indices against which their announcements will be measured, even by, if you go to agriculture. MSP is not being implemented already. The agriculture consortium has said they've lost about 1,000 crores because it was not implemented. Then there are various flagship schemes. Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, too much premium to the insurance companies, too less coverage, and less than 50% coverage in states like UP and Bihar, I mean, which is very bad, and people already know it. Then we talk about jobs. The problem is that the data is not being released, but randomly we are being made aware of the data, and we do know that about 13 lakh jobs as quoted are being lost every month, and too much attention is being paid on the formalization of jobs. You are not really talking about, as he said, a sector where there's disguised unemployment, and the agricultural sector. Then again, they talked about things like e-mandis. Do they exist? No. Even the mandis which we need, there's a mandi, has to be an agricultural mandi every 5 kilometers. The Prime Minister said we needed 42,000, we have just about 7,600, and not even digitalization in the process. There's a huge job force which is being added according to the World Bank data, and we have to grow at about 18% to meet the employment requirements. We talked about startups, we talk about Mudra loans. Now, Mudra loans, if the analysis which is available in the public domain have not related in creating any gainful employment, I think more than 60% of the loans have been used for consumption purposes. So there will be a report card also of the government, and which the people will understand, although we haven't had an economic survey this year, but still underfunded the educational sector, health sector. Their flagship scheme again was Ayushman Bharat. How is it working? Does it exist on ground?
So let me, Shantanu, let me first ask you then on the issue of jobs. Now, would you say that that then would be the single biggest issue that would be weighing on the government's mind as it presents this budget, as it goes into this election, rather than being in denial about the fact that there is a problem?
I think I never heard any government official or any government minister being in denial of the problem of jobs. But again, in the same breath, I'd also say that I think I don't want to comment on so-called leaked data, and we have to also understand what is an unemployment rate. Unemployment rate is calculated based on the people who are applying for jobs. So maybe now more people are aspirational that job is available versus
really.
The labor force.
No.
And also
the data actually shows the opposite.
We have to understand
the data shows the opposite. There are fewer people that are looking for new jobs, and that has steadily been declining since 2004, and it has continued to decline since 2011-12 up to the latest NSSO report, which by the way is not a leaked report. It is, as Mr. Rajiv Kumar called it, a draft.
The numbers can't change. Basic numbers cannot
Shantanu.
change.
So, it's not. Yeah. So it's a report which is not verified, which is not formally, not formally released. And also we have to understand, employment doesn't mean in a country where 92 to 93% sector is informal. Job doesn't only mean you can make a joke on pakoda walas if you don't like them for some reason. But again, job only doesn't mean formal sector, someone working for a private sector or government sector. 92 to 93% jobs are in this sector informal. And when any economy is growing, it has to create jobs. If the economy is growing with 7%, 8% quarter to quarter, it is creating jobs. The government spending is happening in power sector, in roads, in railways. Who is doing that work? Not you and me. Somebody is doing that.
That's very generic. I mean, we're talking about statistics here.
Like if I'm laying double the roads, somebody is doing that stuff, from engineer to.
Where is the data to back that up, Shantanu? Where are the numbers to back that? Where are the jobs being created? Ola and Uber is yesterday Amitabh Kant said Ola and Uber are creating jobs. He even went on to say the quality of jobs that is being created is poor.
Ola and Uber are creating jobs. Are they not? Ola and
That's
Uber
what you're going to tell people who are lining up for jobs? Is that what the government is going to, Venu?
See, Nidhi, the mistake these people are making is they're assuming that a person who starts driving in Ola didn't have a job earlier. You know, what is the use of the NSSO is the most credible around the world. A huge sample.
Government's own ministers have been saying, let's wait for the NSSO data.
It's even World Bank, IMF, whom they keep quoting, government, they say that NSSO is one of the most credible way of collecting and putting out data. Now, why are they hiding NSSO data? Now, Nidhi, in this data, I must point this out, the most important part of the NSSO data is among the youths.
Yeah.
And Mr. Modi, I remember in 2014, all his rallies, he used to tell the youth, give me 5 years and I'll transform your lives. There is youth unemployment is 18% plus, and youth women unemployment in urban areas 22%. We have never seen such high levels of youth unemployment, and this is what is really worrying. And you cannot deny this data by citing anecdotal evidence of some roads being built. Roads were being built earlier also. Taxis were being driven earlier also. Now, you talk about Mudra loans.
Anecdotal evidence. It's not anecdotal evidence. See the records of
NHAI.
But
listen, these anecdotal evidence are captured in the big macro data. We are talking about the big data now.
But Shantanu, then why is that not being captured in the NSSO's own data?
The big data is important, right? If I'm laying double the road, make double the internet
what is the data you have to back that up? We're looking at the NSSO's draft report, as Mr. Rajiv Kumar calls it, which, by the way, the Statistics Commission chairman who just resigned the other day says this was not any draft report. This is a final report. We had signed off on it in December.
Yeah, on 5th December they signed off on it.
It was supposed to have been released. So, chalo, let's forget everything. Maan liya ki it is a draft report for the sake of argument. So, usme bhi things don't look good, right? The data doesn't reflect what you're saying, which is that jobs are being created. Where?
I'll reiterate my earlier statement that there's informal sector, there's formal sector. I think government time and again said, yeah, on the data side, the jobs are not lacking, the data is lacking. It's not this government which created the whole NSSO system, the whole unemployment rate.
Which is what the government has said is the most credible.
It has a sample size of over 500,000, you know.
This the government itself
More
has
than
said.
500,000 sample size across informal sector. You know.
And I think linked to
Yeah,
that,
I
we also
understand.
need to know that the skills
I
itself is not
understand
taking
the
off. So I see.
the data collection, the data collection techniques have not started 4.5 years back. This is a technique we are using for the last 70 years. The government has reiterated. In fact, a lot of ministers have written opinion articles on that we are not lacking jobs, we are lacking data. And that's a gap that we are not able to encapsulate all the jobs. And I don't know why we are making fun that Ola and Uber are not creating jobs. Is by increasing the ease of doing business, if new businesses are coming up and they are creating jobs, I'm saying, yeah, all the jobs may not be counted well, even if the data size is big or small. So there is a need of a more comprehensive data collection on the job side. When the economy size, it's a simple argument, the economy size is increasing. Who is increasing the economy size?
The problem here is, and we have Mr. Fawad Halim of the CPM also joining us this morning. The problem here is that until now, yes, we've heard that, okay, this data is not credible, this guy is wrong, CMIE is wrong, Azim Premji University is wrong, everybody is wrong, let's wait for NSSO. If I'm not mistaken, Piyush Goyal himself said that.
Bhalla said NSSO.
No. And Surjit Bhalla said NSSO,
he called NSSO
Piyush
gold
Goyal
standard.
said NSSO.
Yeah, gold standards, he said.
Let's wait for that data. Now that report has come, which is now being called a draft, but the commission that signed off on it is saying no, it is the final report. Now we're told that no, ye abhi final nahi hai. Anyway, Fawad Halim, what are your expectations from Piyush Goyal this morning?
Well, it's very clear that whatever expectations the people of India have in regard to this budget have been belied by the controversy that the government itself has embroiled itself into. Because you have the national agencies which are being now challenged by other agencies and the government itself, which I think is unfortunate, because the starting point of any what we call budget construction begins with the data that the government itself harvests. And the NSSO data approved by the National Statistical Commission is a process which is a governmental process. If the government itself does not accept data that it is producing, then I think so we are at a very unfortunate cusp. And this interim budget is already what you call showing signs of strain that the government has not performed in the past 5 years. Because if you're talking about unemployment data, that is one of the key promises that Narendra Modi had made. And I think so Piyush Goyal will be hard pressed to explain as to why is the government actually contradicting itself. You've got two people who have already resigned from the statistics organization, and you already have statements coming from the Niti Aayog that we have to vet the report. He accepts it as a draft report and says that he has to vet it and approval has to be given. Now, these are apex organizations, and what these apex organizations conclude, if it has to be vetted by a political representative like the cabinet or any other organization, then one is very clear that the government is actually trying to fudge data.
It's not supposed to be.
Data of apex organizations, I think so, is critically, it is not supposed to be done. So if you take the Niti Aayog chairman's what you call comments that we need to vet the data, then he is actually saying that he does not accept the draft report in its present form. What is he going to add to the draft report?
Okay,
how is he going to vet that data?
I need to take a break here, and there's a lot to talk about on this, because this is clearly going to be.
I think so. There is a political.
Yeah, no. You're making an important point there. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll continue to focus again on how the issue of the jobs crisis may be reflected in this budget, but also we're going to look at the rural distress in some more detail, and how that is something that perhaps Piyush Goyal will be looking to address in his budget speech. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Well, you're watching our coverage of the budget 2019, the election budget as we're calling it. They're saying it's an interim budget, a vote on account, not a full budget, but we are just weeks away from the general election, which means you can expect some announcements, some SOPs at least. For farmers, for the middle class at least, that is what is being intensely speculated. Well, we've also been, apart from talking to our terrific panel this morning, trying to get a sense from our reporters around the country talking to people across the spectrum on what their expectations are from the finance minister this morning. And I'd like to go across now to my colleague Anurag, who's in Madhya Pradesh, and with him are a group of farmers. And Anurag, this of course is going to be very, very crucial. What the government may announce for farmers, the agrarian distress is real, farmer distress is real. What are farmers there expecting?
Yes, Nidhi, and the farmers here in Badjiri village, they are expecting at least a relief package to address the agrarian crisis. This village is also significant because this is the first village of Madhya Pradesh which has gone cashless 2 years back. And if I can show you the produce, why I'm talking about the produce, because this is the state who started Bhavantar Bhugtan Yojana, and they are worried as Madhya Pradesh has also bagged Krishi Karman awards, but people like Yogendra Yadav has always pointed out that this has to do more with the produce, not with the producers. So we are joined by the producers, the farmers of Madhya Pradesh, and we'll just ask them. सबसे बड़ी बात अगर मध्य प्रदेश को लेकर की जाए तो यही है कि किसानों की नाराजगी सरकार को झेलनी पड़ी, जबकि सरकार कह रही थी कि हमेशा से वो किसान हितैषी रही, भावांतर भुगतान जैसी योजनाएं आई। आप लोगों को फायदा हुआ?
नहीं, फायदा बिल्कुल नहीं हुआ। अभी थोड़ी देर पहले चर्चा हुई थी कि ना कृषि कर्मण अवार्ड जो इनको 3-4 बार मिला है जी, शिवराज सिंह जी ने आके हल चलाए थे क्या? किसान ने ही मेहनत करी थी, इन्होंने योजना चलाई बिल्कुल पहले। भावांतर में हमको सबसे ज्यादा छलावा किया है तो इन्होंने भावांतर में किया गया।
तो अगर केंद्र ऐसी कोई योजना लाए तो आपको लगता है कि पूरे देश में इसका और दुष्प्रभाव भी पड़ेगा?
बिल्कुल पड़ेगा। केंद्र अगर ये करेगी, जब यहाँ प्रदेश में हमको छलावा हो रहा है तो पूरे देश को क्यों छले?
तो आपको क्या उम्मीद है आज जब बजट पीयूष गोयल जी लाएंगे, आप क्या चाहते हैं कि मध्य प्रदेश के किसान को इसमें उनके पिटारे से क्या निकले?
सब उम्मीद तो नहीं है, क्योंकि 4.5-5 समय पूरा होने आया, अब तक किसान के लिए कुछ नहीं किया।
उम्मीद पे दुनिया कायम है, आप क्या उम्मीद करते हैं? फिर भी
उम्मीद अगर होता है तो बहुत अच्छी बात है सब किसानों के लिए। किसान की हालत बहुत खराब है। आप देखिए कि आज किसान 100 एकड़ के किसान के एक चपरासी से आप कंपेरिजन तुलना कर लीजिए, उसका लिविंग स्टैंडर्ड, उसका जीवन स्तर, उसके बच्चे अच्छे स्कूल में पढ़ेंगे, लेकिन किसान जो है 100 एकड़
चाहते क्या है? जैसे मान लीजिए अगर मैं कहूं कि स्वामीनाथन आयोग की रिपोर्ट, हम जिस बोरी पर बैठे हैं, जैसे फॉस्फेट की बोरी है, यूरिया की बोरी है, हमने देखा था कि मध्य प्रदेश में बहुत दिक्कत हुई थी कुछ दिनों पहले। तो ऐसी अगर आप अपनी मांग दिल्ली तक पहुंचाना चाहें?
मैं सर यही चाहता हूँ कि जैसे स्वामीनाथन की रिपोर्ट है उसका 1.5 गुना भी मिल जाए। सरकारी कर्मचारियों का 200, 150, 200 बार महंगाई भत्ता और तनख्वाहें बढ़ी। किसान का तो 18-19 बार जो अभी समर्थन मूल्य है 18-19 बार बढ़ा। अगर इस तुलना में देखो, अगर 100 बार भी बढ़ा दो तो आप 7,500 रुपये कुंटल गेहूं होना चाहिए, लेकिन आज क्या है स्थिति?
जब लागत पर 1.5 गुना चाहते हैं।
हाँ, लागत पर जी जब फसल आती है सर तो किसान इतना लुटता है, कहते हैं ना कि 2,000 रुपये। अब जैसे 20 तारीख से समर्थन मूल्य 25 मार्च से खरीदी होगी, उसके पहले फसल आ जाती है और किसान का औने पौने दाम में जो फड़िए हैं लोकल लोग खरीद लेते हैं, और किसान को जरूरत रहती है उसको। तो कभी लड़की की शादी है, कभी बीमार है।
तो ये एक अहम बात आपने कही। आपके गांव की अहमियत इसलिए भी है क्योंकि पहला मध्य प्रदेश का गांव था जो कैशलेस हुआ था। आपको लगता है उससे किसान को कुछ फायदा हुआ?
क्या फायदा होगा उससे? किसान को क्या मतलब है कैशलेस से? क्या कैशलेस पे फसल बेचेगा कि कैशलेस पे कुछ मजदूर लेके आएगा? क्या
भुगतान में जो कहते थे कि उससे बीच की जो कड़ियां हैं, दलाल है, वो हट जाएंगे, वैसा कुछ हुआ था?
एंड टाइम पे जब फसल कटती है उसी समय किसान को पैसे की जरूरत पड़ती है। अब किसान अगर भवंतर का इंतजार करेगा तो वो मकान बेचेगा क्या?
दादा आप भी आ जाओ, अब खटिया लेकर आ गए, यहाँ बैठ के बात करते हैं, आइए। हाँ जी, आप कुछ कहना चाह रहे थे?
सर मैं ये कहना चाह रहा था कि किसानों के लिए मैं केंद्र सरकार हो या राज्य सरकार, सबसे एक तो सौर ऊर्जा और गोबर गैस किसान के लिए वरदान है। और इसका मतलब किसान को जैसे और सुविधा देने की बजाय अगर सौर ऊर्जा का, गोबर गैस का, जैसे अभी आया था गोबर से बिजली बनने का एक ने किसी ने आविष्कार किया मोटरसाइकिल, तो इससे गोधन की भी हमारी वो होगी।
So they also wanted to address this menace of stray cattle, and they are suggesting the union government if they can do something about the solar plants and gobar gas. Nidhi, back to you.
All right, Anurag, thanks very much. It was very interesting to listen to what they had to say. And I've got my colleague Uma Sudhir joining us from Sikandrabad as well this morning. And Uma, who do you have with you there?
Nidhi, I'm here at a market yard in Boyenpalli. This is a place where farmers would come in. Yes, traders also in big numbers, but those who want to avoid that middleman will come in here. Telangana, of course, one of those states that implemented the direct cash transfer scheme to the farmers, about 4,000 rupees per acre per farmer, and they have a universal coverage of that, which means about 58 lakh farmers got covered, and the cost just in 1 year is about 12,000 crore rupees. But considering that this is an election year and the three Hindi heartland states, they feel that the perception is that farm distress was one of the reasons why the BJP did not do well, and that's the reason why we are expecting that in the budget at least they will announce direct kind of a benefit transfer scheme, which may be called an income transfer scheme, though many people believe that many other subsidies may be subsumed in this particular thing. Telanganalo Raitu Bandhu scheme వచ్చింది, దాని వల్ల బెనిఫిట్ ఉంది. ఇప్పుడు యూనియన్ బడ్జెట్ లో కూడా మోదీ గారు కూడా అదే పెడతారని ఆశ ఉందా?
ఉన్నది, ఇప్పుడు పెడతారని ఆశ ఉంది, కానీ మరి ఏం చేస్తారు చూడాలి.
మీరు బడ్జెట్ లో ఏం ఉండాలని అనుకుంటున్నారు? మీరు గవర్నమెంట్ కి ఏం చెప్పదలుచుకున్నారు?
మాకు రైతు బంధు పెట్టాలి, రుణమాఫీ పెట్టాలి, మాకు పండించే పంటల గిట్టుబాటు ధర కావాలి అని కావాలని కోరుకుంటాం.
What he's pointing out is that the Raitu Bandhu kind of a scheme of direct cash transfer is very useful. He's also talking about loan waiver and saying that if the government can announce loan waiver, that would be a big help, and much more important, stable prices. He was just telling us a short while ago that the rate of tomatoes kuda meeku రావట్లేదు.
అంటే మార్కెట్లు అంటే మాకు గిట్టుబాటు ధర ఇంత మినిమం ఉండాలి. ఇప్పుడు అక్కడ పండించిన పంటలకేమో వాళ్ళకేమో మినిమం ధర పెడతారు, మాకు ఇక్కడ పండించిన పంటలకు మాత్రం మినిమం ధర లేదు.
He says minimum support prices are there perhaps for other cereals, but not there for items like vegetables, and there is a huge variation in the prices. So the big expectation certainly that there should be a loan waiver announcement and a direct cash transfer announcement, but how much that is going to hit the fiscal budget, that's something that's certainly an open-ended question. And also the talk about whether it will be the Odisha model of Kalia, where it's a targeted intervention and targeted transfer only to the small and marginal farmers, or it will be a universal transfer like in the case of Telangana, where every farmer, every acre of land, only the landowners though are covered under scheme. That of course would cost the exchequer an estimated 1% of the GDP, which is perhaps a huge fiscal price to pay. Back to you.
Thanks very much, Uma and Anurag, for giving us that terrific perspective there on just the kind of problems that farmers are facing and what they're expecting. Mohammad Khan of the Congress joining us as well. There is a big buzz, Mohammad Khan, that the finance minister will look at announcing maybe some kind of direct transfer scheme for farmers. And that could again be something that would politically work out very well before the elections. These are live pictures, meanwhile, from the finance ministry, where there's some kind of movement that has all started just before the budget.
Right. Here's the thing with the BJP. The actual priority is not agricultural income growth. If that had been the case, then over the last 4.5 years, we would have seen a very different picture. Your colleague was with the farmers of Madhya Pradesh right now, and one of them said, with a great degree of what I can assume is pathos in his voice, he said that 4.5 saal ho gaye, kiya kya in logon ne? They've had two very simple, straightforward demands. MSP plus 50, loan waiver. One of these was promised by the BJP in its 2014 manifesto. Neither of them, till date, has materialized in any of these budgets. Remember, the BJP proclaims victory well in advance. Amit Shah went ahead and said, we have given it in this budget. But it turned out to be a sleight of hand. The biggest criticism of the BJP's budget, and I'll confine myself to the budget right now, is they come up with these glamorous schemes, keeping in mind the posters that they'll draw around them, the propaganda that they'll build around it. For example, Ayushman Bharat. As we and Venu Saab and a lot of other commentators pointed out, the budget was not provided for the ambitious scheme itself. By September, they ran out of money according to public reports. So therefore, that's the same problem. It's the same problem with MSP plus 50. It's the same problem with Mudra loans. They provide anecdotal data to suggest it's a success. They never tell you, even till today, what is the amount of NPAs that Mudra loans are being converted into. So overall,
let me ask Shantanu about that.
Rather than a budget.
Is it headline management rather than anything that is effectively being announced for farmers, Shantanu?
I'm saying the MS Swaminathan report was quoted while your journalist was talking to the farmers. And MS Swaminathan himself written an opinion article a couple of months back and giving salute to Modi government that since the Farmer Commission was announced way back, the first time that a government is taking absolute measures. Farming is a problem world over, profitable farming is a problem world over, and India it's not a new problem, but you have to take substantial steps, and these substantial steps don't pay up in a year or two. Be it soil health card or irrigation scheme or the farm insurance scheme, Swaminathan himself, so you can't quote Swaminathan in one respect, and when he gives an opinion, you can't discredit it. So someone as renowned as Swaminathan has given that this is the government which is first time doing hardcore measures toward improving farming in India.
So then why are farmers protesting?
Why are they committing suicide in record numbers to the extent that the Supreme Court has to intervene and remind you?
The farmer protest is genuine, but again, someone has to take long-term measures. These things don't come up in a year or two, as I told you. Something like a urea coated neem coated urea, from soil health card, from farm insurance to new irrigation practices. This will take time to come up, but again, these are the right steps which someone as profound as Swaminathan has endorsed.
Let me get a quick comment from Juhi Singh and Venu. Juhi.
Nidhi, see, my profession is agriculture, so I can speak on it. Tinkering with data is a problem with this government. Whether it's the Saubhagya Yojana, where you make new targets just to show that you've met. PM Asha, what happened to that? That was supposed to be an agricultural scheme announced with great fanfare, where you were supposed to join the producer and the input costs. The mandis, where is the markets? The prices are falling. Agriculture is not a problem worldwide over. There are countries which are smaller than ours and who made innovations and made agriculture profitable. The problem is that you announce certain schemes, your implementation is zero, and also the fact that your compliances have increased so much that half the time even the farmer, the 56-minute loan scheme, the farmer loan scheme, or any of the advantages, half the time the farmer is not even aware of how we are supposed to get the advantages or the loans, or to even to bring organic agriculture. A farmer was talking about gobar ki khad and Saure Urja. These were implementation schemes which are already in place, but you don't see them. So I think that gap will be assessed, and also the fact that unemployment is rampant, and a new thing which has come up is that the various cattle which are grazing the fields and none of the governments are doing anything. That's a problem for the farmer. He's staying awake the whole night.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another thing that's cropped up. Okay, I have to take a break. I absolutely have to take a break. We'll be back with more on the other side, more perspectives from different parts of the country. The finance minister just leaving his home a little while ago. In television, we're tracking every movement and bringing you everything as it happens. So we'll take a break. We'll be back soon.